Good morning and welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Pace, I'm your host, and here we are The Secret How to Fight CPS and Win. Now, I welcome all of you to this podcast. It's interactive, and I love to have you um, ask me questions and interact with me. There's three ways you can interact with this podcast. The first way is to text a comment um, about your CPS uh, case. Um, when you're typing in your comments with your CPS question, please show your name, city, state, country, and be complete with your CPS issue. Um, Now, I welcome all of you from around the world because this is broadcast on Facebook using the StreamYard application. And um, I mentioned countries only because we've had these countries contact me about their problems with CPS. One has been um, Australia, and then Canada, and then United Kingdom. We've had Ghana in South America, north of Brazil, south of Venezuela. We've had Mexico, Mozambique in Africa, near Somalia on the east coast, and then we've had Denmark. And so there is an international interest in CPS because I guess worldwide there are issues too. Now, when I talk about CPS, I'm talking about the Child Protection System. Every state has their own acronyms for what they call, like in Arizona is Department of Children's Services, DCS. Other places, it could be Health Department of Children's Services. So when I talk about CPS, I'm talking about the branch of social services that was mandated by the federal government to protect their children from neglect, abuse, and do family reunification. And I want to emphasize family reunification. We really shouldn't have to reunify because our family was together. CPS is the one that broke up the reunification, or the family. So we have to reunification. And they may have their reasons, but lately what CPS has done, which has been really sad, is they've gone to great extreme to traffic our children, kidnap our children. And what I mean by that is that there is a group of social workers from CPS in Arizona, at Prescott, Arizona, that in 2022 decided to wear pink t-shirts with the name on the front, Professional Child Kidnappers, and on the back is had the parents. Do you know where your children are at? Now, this is the attitude that 8 social workers had at Prescott. I don't think it's the attitude of all the social workers, but it really bothers me when they did this. Their thinking mentality, and it seems like I've been doing this since October, and I do 2 shows every day, 7 days a week. I haven't missed one. I do a morning show at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time for an hour, and then I do an evening show at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time for an hour. Now, there's one exception. On Sunday, I start at 8 o'clock Sunday morning for 1 hour Pacific Standard Time. And this Tuesday, I'm going to be starting at 5 o'clock instead of at 7 o'clock Pacific. That's tomorrow. I'll be on at 5 o'clock. Now, um, you probably are, um, your case, I don't know what stage it's on. So when you text in or talk, is there. Um, so with that being said, Um, so as you come into the room, I want you to sit back and enjoy, or not enjoy, but try to solve your CPS case. I'm not an attorney. I'm a loving father, husband. I have a family of 6 children, and my CPS case, just like yours, started with allegations. The allegations were from uh, lay people. They were my in-laws, my family members' in-laws, my wife's side of the family decided when I lost my job in 2010 to interfere um, with her family. They've never been really supportive of me and my wife and having a family for 32 years. They've done nothing but harass my family. And it's sad because that's the downside of allegations. Allegations are made either by lay people, which are family, friends, relatives, people that do not work with children professionally. But then there's the other person that calls in, which are professionals, your teachers, your counselors, the principal, the nurse, the doctor, the policeman, the fireman. Those are professionals that work with children. So they're required by law to report a abuse or neglect what they perceive. And the sad part about it is the lay people use it to get back at their spouse or to family members to try to take the children. It's really mean and very, very bad what lay people do with allegations. Mine were false allegations. And what furthermore, I didn't know all the stuff that I know now. I wish I had done. Things like don't talk to social workers, don't talk to policemen. It's yes, no answers. You can be courteous, but you don't want to say anything that's used against you. Do not let them in your home. Your home is your castle. The only right they have to come in your home if there's an ongoing physical or neglect happening that is such extreme danger. If they hear yelling inside and walls and people being slammed the wall, they're gonna break in. The other way is a court order. The Child Protection Services has to get a court order, and that court order, you know, has to be signed by a judge with a wet signature, their stamp of approval. It's got to describe in the warrant what they want to do. They want to see the person, they have to list the name, and the allegations are listed, and the children are listed. Furthermore, it gives the location and the date and time they could come into the home. And so if you're outside and they show up and they show you the paperwork, look at it carefully. If you're inside, this is rule number 3 that I'm talking about. You don't answer the door. And, the importance of don't answer the door is on May 2nd of this month, a black airman in the United States Air Force was brutally shot to death when he opened the door. Now, there's camera videos from the sheriff, chest cam, and then there is a video from FaceTime that he's talking to his girlfriend. And what apparently happened is this sheriff knocked before saying anything, and that alerted the man inside, who was alone at the time, to get his gun, which he legally had a license to wear a gun and use a gun. But he had it in his hand at a downward position, not pointing at the door. The policeman, very foolishly, was standing in front of the door. You never want to stand at a door because the person on the other side could shoot you. And I don't understand with the training the policeman didn't think about that. But what you do is that you attempt to the side of the door jamb to knock on the door. You stand to the side, you don't stand in front of the door. And maybe he did because the black man said he didn't see any person through the peephole. So maybe he did stand aside. But what happened was he should have given instructions to unlock the door, lay face down with your hands behind your head, and if you have a weapon, leave it nearby so that the officer can see the weapon. Then if the policeman opens the door slowly and peers in and sees the guy on the floor, then he can tell the person not to move and he can retrieve the weapon or move the weapon to the side. But what instead of happened is the policeman knocked a second time and very roughly said, "I am the sheriff," in a very threatening gesture. And so the black man opened the gun and he was immediately shot, not once, not twice, but 5 times. And why is it necessary to shoot black men 5 times? There's been so many prejudice against black. I don't understand. I don't understand. They're more no different than you or I, just because our skin's one color. This is against all races. But the sheriff apparently felt threatened by a guy with a gun in his side and wanted to shoot first before asking questions or doing commands. He could have disarmed the situation. He could have shot the guy in the foot or the arm or shot the pistol out of his hands. These sheriffs are supposedly gone through training and are good marksmen. So I don't understand why, in most instances like this has happened numerous times. This has happened numerous times to people behind doors. There's a black woman that was brutally shot behind the door, and she didn't have a gun. It was a wrong house. And we're still not sure today if this is a wrong house. But anyway, here's a man who went to high school, has a loving family, has a loving girlfriend. The girlfriend is without a boyfriend, maybe a future husband. And the black man's dead, and the mother has lost her son. And he was defending our country. He was serving our country, an Air Force airman. He wasn't in uniform, but that doesn't make the difference. It could have been diffused. And so that's what I'm telling you about. My rule number 3 is don't answer the door. Don't, look through the peephole. If you don't see anything, then don't answer the door. Go to another part of the house and be quiet. If they need to get a hold of you, they can phone you. They can leave a business card at the front door. They can send you a letter. Or bring out a warrant. And if they say they have a warrant, and if you have a window on the side, you can look at the warrant through the window. Or if you're outside, you can see the warrant. If you're outside, don't go back in the house. And especially if you have children. And what I recommend is that when you're being investigated by CPS and the police, that after they leave, you immediately take your children to stay with your relatives in another state. It's for their own safety because they will be trafficking into CPS. Because I've talked to over 500 some people in all the states in our country here and around the world. Is that CPS lies, they're very deceiving, they're not transparent, and they are the worst agency I've come across, worse than IRS. And they think they're above the law. They think they can violate your constitutional and your civil rights, which is wrong. Anytime a case by the county is investigating, when they get that phone call, they right away assume you're guilty until you're proven innocent. No other law is like that. You're not guilty until you're proven guilty. That's how criminal law works. But in dependency court, in the eyes of CPS and the judge, you're guilty. Guilty of what? An allegation. Now, there are child abuse, neglect that goes on. That's awful. There is really truth to that matter. But as I say, just think about the airman, that went to the door, and now he's gone. He's gone. They're going to fight it in the courts. It's sad. It's not going to bring back the airmen. The girlfriend's not going to have a husband. The mother's not going to have a son. And sometimes I hate to say it, that our society is so corrupt that people lie. They retaliate. So I don't know if the sheriff's going to owe up to it, but I think what he did was wrong. So don't answer the door. Don't let them take your children. They're going to say, "Can we take your children?" You say no. They have to get a court order. And there has to be extreme danger. That's what I really don't seem to understand lately, is why people don't, you know, ask what the extreme danger is. In my case, after 5 years of answering these false allegations, and I actually showed them my home, which I shouldn't have, but they didn't find anything wrong in 5 years. But apparently, my in laws were bugging them so bad that the social workers thought there was something terrible going on in our home. And it was in a private neighborhood at the beach. It was a beautiful home. Each of the three children had their own rooms, own beds. There's nothing in there that would threaten them. They had their own bathroom, and it was upstairs, and it was safe. One went to a private school, and then one there. Hi, Faye. So glad that you came in. Faye is from Richmond, Kentucky. She had been ill the past week, but she's feeling better, I see. But she's been on our show, and she's talked a lot. So when my family, they were in extreme danger. But what they did is the social workers called the police. In turn, the police, got a hold of detectives, and they followed me. Hi, Mandy Marie. Mandy is from Washington. How do I get my kid in placement looking at guardianship to come back home when he has been coached and rewarded to stay out of my home by the department placement? You can get guardianship. What's the age of your child? What's the age of your child? And is the child, do you still have your parental rights to him? Mandy, and I will help you. You can get guardianship of your child. I have my co host, Danielle, who's usually on the show, and she has a son who turned 18 in the CPS system, and she's trying to get guardianship of him because he has special needs, and he's lost in the CPS system in Texas. He was taken from Georgia, where his mother lived, and so forth, and put into a special needs place because he had special needs, and so they had to ship him to Texas. Meanwhile, he turned 18, so Danielle is slowly, surely getting guardianship of him. So you can get guardianship. Mandy, how old is your child, and where's your child located, and what is the status of your case? Have you lost your parental rights or something there? Um, Faye, is there something you want to ask or something? I'm going to put on my phone number that people can call in. Now, if you want to call in, it's 626-698-0990. You can call in at 626-698-0990. And you'll be able to talk on my speakerphone. You won't be on camera, but you'll be able to um, talk on the show about your question. Now, I have two people in my room, Faye from Richmond, Kentucky, and Mandy from Washington. And if all of you have questions, you can text it in. Just make sure you have your name and the city, state, or country you're from. Now, we're talking about rule number 3, which is entrance into your home and how that has to have a court order and so forth. In my case, the detective followed me when I picked up my young son at a public elementary school nearby. And then he followed me for a long time, which I don't understand. Maybe trying to figure where I was going. All I was going, he was going downtown to pick up my wife from doing some errands. Anyway, he enlisted a black and white guy driving by us. That black and white turned around and came to us and pulled me over with his lights. Now, I'm being a law-abiding citizen. I obey the lights and policemen. I obey the government workers too. I suppose he had all their faith and trust, and he um, had this black and white pull me over. When the black and white pulled up, the black and white um, officer came out, and he said he didn't introduce himself. He just said really gruffly, "Did you know you ran a stop sign?" Well, these policemen are so bad. They just don't know how to have good people skills. Okay, Mandy, he's 16 in August. He was taken from me, and the department got me to agree to dependency, only stating that I agree the department had concerns. So now they want to move towards guardianship and termination of my rights. I have a trial for the fact finding. Well, Mandy, I don't know if you have an attorney. That's my rule number one, but you need to have an attorney. And I don't mean a court-appointed attorney. If he's been taken out for 2 years, that's a long time because usually the cases only last a year. And I don't understand if he has special needs, why you can't you're the biological mother, right, Mandy? Um, and your boy, 16, will be in August, so he's 15 now. Where is he? Is he in a foster home, a group home? Um, okay, you represent yourself, which is hard to do. I tried to for a year and a half, and I got nowhere. Um, if you want, you can call on the show, and then instead of texting back and forth, we can answer your questions and discuss this. My phone number is 626-698-0990. And if you don't want to talk, I understand, Mandy. We can try our best to answer your questions. This trial coming up, what kind of a trial? It's called for a fact-finding trial. Also, it's talked about termination and moving towards guardianship. Now, is that guardianship with the foster parents? But okay, good, Mandy. That would be great. That would be great. So, finishing with rule number 3 is that you just do not let social workers take your child with them in their home or anything else. Oh, okay. Hello and welcome. Do you hear me okay? Yeah. Do you hear me okay? Do you hear me okay?
I hear you fantastic.
I'm say that again. Can you talk up a little bit?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
So the
Yeah, you started to say something and then you stopped.
oh yeah, no, I was going to finish up with what I was texting you.
Okay.
The hearing coming up is actually for guardianship, Title 13.
Your guardianship or someone else's guardianship?
No, he was removed from my care. They're trying to go after me for I don't know. There's not dropping the dependency. I guess there's a thing where they can either drop the dependency or continue it after guardianship is established. I'm not sure how that all works, but
are you the biological mother? Are you the biological mother?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. So why do you want guardianship? You should have. Is he a special needs or something?
No. Well, he's not on record. No, he does have some things.
So why do you want guardianship? I don't understand why you want guardianship. You're his parent.
No, I don't. I don't want the guardianship to go through. I want.
Well, who wants guardianship? Who wants guardianship?
My sister is fighting for custody.
Oh, there's a family member involved. I didn't know about that. That makes sense now. So you have a family member that wants guardianship. And why does this family member want guardianship?
Because her house was in forbearance and now it's not, and she gets food stamps and TANF and all these wonderful perks to have him in her care. He doesn't understand that she's getting paid. And he gets all these wonderful things like video games, cell phones, and things that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's very well to do then, you tell me.
No, she's not. She's just struggling, and so he's helping her out of that.
Well, then why would she be qualified as a guardian if she's just struggling? Does she have a job?
That's a good question. I'd like to know.
Well,
No,
those
she
are
did
questions
not.
if you're defending yourself. If you're defending yourself, which is not too smart a maneuver because you're not a lawyer and you can't speak like a lawyer in court. You have to say how it is in layman terms. But you could ask the court when you address the court, when it's your time to talk, you can ask her, do you have a job? Does she have a job? How is she going to take care of the child if she doesn't have a job? How does she pay her rent or mortgage payment on her home? Does she take the child to school? Does she take the child to school?
I think he does the school investigation. I know that the social worker talking about helping him get his license.
Well, I don't know in the state of, I think you're Washington, right?
Yes.
Right. I don't know what the driving law in California. It's 15 and a half. You get a learner's permit, but it's not until you're 16 that you can get a license.
Right.
So how's he get transported to school?
Right now by the school and transportation, so the public. The bus.
You say right now by who? The what justification?
The school transportation, so the bus.
Oh, he takes the school bus.
Yes.
Okay, so he takes the school bus to go to high school back and forth. Now, where does he take the school bus? From your home, or where does he take it from?
No, he's not. I haven't seen him for. He doesn't want to have visitation with me at this
You don't
point.
have any visitation rights?
No, they have not let me have visitation
Have
rights.
they terminated your
March of last year?
Have they terminated your visitation? I mean, excuse me. They terminated your parental rights, your education rights, your medical rights.
Nope, they haven't terminated anything.
So then, why don't you have visitation?
He's declined it.
Who declined it?
My son declined it. The social worker allowed them to do that.
Yeah, that's the sad part. A child at age 12 can start doing things that, my daughter divorced us parents at age 12, so I know where you're coming from. So he's not being cooperative either. Does he want to be with his mother?
Not anymore. Not anymore. So he did initially want to be back home with me, and then my sister got into his ear, and the social worker got into his ear, and it's all a bunch of lies. You know how this works. As a matter of fact, I can prove that she told him things that are actually psychologically damaging to him. Told him that he was emaciated and malnourished when he came into her care, and his BMI for his doctor was 21.4. So how is that underweight is my question. But apparently it is according to her, but it's really not.
Have you had his pediatrician do a medical review of him to see if you can enter that paperwork into the court that he's physically fit?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the paperwork that I have is from CPS itself, so it's going to be in the fact finding.
Well, no, you don't want CPS to do the physical assessment of your son. You want a professional doctor like your pediatrician, the doctor that he's been seeing.
Yeah, they did.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, no, they did. My sister took him to an actual doctor.
Well, no. Is it the pediatrician that you have gotten? See, the problem is you're taking them to a doctor, a strange doctor, and they probably maybe got money under the table to say something wrong. You can't trust the system. You need to take them to a doctor of your choice, a pediatrician of your choice.
Right.
And you need to get a report from a pediatrician of your choice. You're going to get a wrong report if your sister's involved or the CPS involved because they're not doctors. They sometimes say they're clinical psychiatrists or therapists, but they're not.
Right.
Has this case, in the 2 years' time, have you checked to see if this case has been reported to the state?
Yes, I did report it.
No, not you reported it. Did the county in Washington report this CPS case to the state? It's required by law.
Oh, I don't know.
See, this is a thing I just found out recently that all CPS cases that are investigated by the county, that's how it starts. They must report with a number to the state about the case. If they don't, then the case doesn't exist. The county
Okay.
cannot
What?
do a case without notifying the state what the case is about.
So in Washington State, how would I would I go
Well,
and
what
find
you
that
want to
out?
do is you're going to go to, hold on a second here. You're going to contact the state of Washington at the state level. I just got to find the name of the. Uh, there's 50 states, so I'm sorry if I'm not. Oh boy.
So like Olympia then?
Well, you
Yes,
want to
Olympia.
contact what's called the Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services. That
Okay.
is at the state level. You just do the state of Washington, the Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services. Then you want to get a hold of the Civil Rights Coordinator or Ombudsperson. The Ombudsperson is who
Okay.
you need to talk to. They'll give you a phone number, and you want to
Okay.
say, "Is my
Is
case?"
that
And you have the number on your paperwork, and you give them the number. Is it filed with the state?
is that the docket number?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
what?
my case number. Okay.
Yeah, the docket number. And you want to check with the state to see if it's filed, because if it's not filed, the case doesn't exist.
Okay. Is that
And this
different than
is
the ombudsman?
this is why you need an attorney. I mean, I'm not an attorney, and I've done
I
this
know. I
now
know.
for 14 years, and I'm starting to find out things like this, which I wish I had
I
known
know.
when my kids were taken in 2015, wrongfully taken.
It's like an onion. It's like an onion. You
Yes,
just have to keep peeling away
yes.
all the layers. I didn't realize.
Oh yeah, there is. See, CPS are tricksters. They are really tricksters. They're not your friend, and they will bring you up and take you down. They'll use deception. They'll say, "Sign this paperwork, you'll get your child back, Mandy." So
Sure.
sign this work there. Um,
And the problem is most lawyers that are court appointed work with them, and it's just not okay.
yeah, I know it is. I haven't talked about rule number one: find an attorney. But if you can't afford an attorney, don't use the court-appointed attorney. What you can do is you find a pro bono attorney. And people say, I've tried. You may have to try for weeks on end to get a pro bono attorney. They're out there. You just got to phrase your phrases right. For all your listeners, to get an attorney is that you just say, find, and whatever your city is in Washington, and it's not a big city, then you can use Seattle, maybe that's a big city, Washington, a pro bono family law attorney. And a list of names will show up. From that list of names, you pick 10. If there's only 9, you do all 9. And what you do is you
Right.
call
Right.
them to see if they're in business. And if they leave messages, you have to call them again and again and again. But eventually, you'll talk to 10 of them that are in business, and then you need to ask questions. Are you true pro bono? Are you have you fought cases in CPS against CPS? Have you got children back in CPS? Have you gone to fought in dependency court? So those are the questions you need to get answers to. And once you've talked to 10 people or whatever number you got, you're going to pick 5 of them. And I want one of the 5 to be Vincent W. Davis. And he will do a consultation for 30 minutes for $60. He's an excellent family law attorney. He has 35 years fighting CPS. He's a trial attorney.
I watched a lot of his videos.
And he has also done every state, not every state, but he does states, Northern California. He's primary in Southern California, but he will charge you the per diem, which is the transportation and the to get there to your place, the accommodation and transportation around your place. Then he charges his regular fees on top of that as part of his retainer. That's something you can discuss. And his number right now is shown as 888-888-6582. And when you reach the office, you want to um, uh, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And when you talk to him, tell him that Bob Pace sent you.
Okay.
So, with that being said, um, that's how you're going to find an attorney. And you do that with the five, including Vincent Davis, to do the consultations to determine which attorney would be best for you. Now, if you can't, you can call me back later and we can do it together to find you an attorney. But it does pop up. I've tried it in all the different states. For instance, in Texas, there's an association of family law attorneys that are available to volunteer their time. Now, you need to find the chemistry. You need to find someone that's fine. A good clue to a good family law attorney is that have you filed a civil lawsuit against CPS? If the answer is yes, they are a fighter. And have you won? That's a good question to ask them. Have you filed um, a lawsuit against CPS in a civil lawsuit against CPS in federal court or state court and won? If their answer to that question is yes, that guy you want to grab or that girl you want to grab and have them do there. But that's my rule number one. You need to get an attorney, and it's like heart surgery. If your heart needs to be worked on, are you going to do it yourself? Cut open your chest? Are you going to have a plumber cut it open? Are you going to have a auto mechanic cut open? Or any other kind of lay person? No, you're going to get a professional doctor because CPS is like the story in Alice in Wonderland. You're in your backyard, in your garden, you fall in the rabbit hole, and you go through a series of doors, and you have stupid things like off with your head, or the doors go to nowhere. That's what CPS. They're like a spider, and they web a
Well,
web
they're a
around.
cabinet level agency, supposedly, so whatever that means.
I don't know what meant by a cabinet level, but if you're at the county level, it's all it is a bunch of social workers that aren't trained, that have no college degree, they have had no experience in social work, and right away they're working with you about family reunification or neglect or abuse. And it's wrong. They don't have a license. See, a doctor has a license, a lawyer has a license, a police have a license. Social workers need to have a license. And there's another thing you're working against them. It's a $50 billion business, $50 billion. They make $20,000 per child per month when they take your child in, when they open your case. So it's all about social workers getting bonus. And as I opened my show with the pink ladies, those 8 social workers that wore a T-shirt that said they're professional child kidnappers, and on the back they say "Parents, where are your children?" That tells you the mentality of social workers. In Washington, I've talked to probably a half a dozen people up there, and they are very, very bad all over the state. So what you need to do is you need to talk to the state level to help you out there. So you got time now, the 24th to the 26th. You can find an attorney in Washington, and is Seattle close to you?
About 142 miles.
Okay, what big city is close to you?
Probably Seattle might be closer to
What is the city?
Spokane Valley.
What is it? What is the city?
By Spokane Valley.
Okay, well, anyway, there are pro bono attorneys there. They're all over the country, and you want to get one locally because then you know they'll work on your case. I think there's not too many pro attorneys I know that come across the country when it costs money for airfare and car transportation and hotel accommodations. But
well, a lot of these are done over Zoom now anyway.
yeah,
like,
but you need to do a lot of things. You need to go and check to see if they have a case on file with the state. Also, that ombudsperson or civil rights coordinator, you can do a complaint if they're doing something wrong. If they are a complaint, they're doing something wrong.
Is that the same as the ombudsman, the civil rights?
Yes, they are at the top of the level. I mean, they're not. Let's see, I keep forgetting where they are.
Because I have actually gotten a hold of the ombudsman a couple different times. One time they did enforce the stations that were not in place and now there's the point where they're just like telling me to get a lawyer because there's so much of it that they don't want to touch it anymore. And I'm seriously like, I have all the records of the record full. He would find it, but I don't know how many other people out of this situation will believe how much paper it's related. But I actually have one intake that the initial face-to-face was done in 2 minutes from the intake. Now, how is that supposed to be? I mean, pre-planned, that's just not explainable to me. How does somebody make a referral on a 32-hour response and have them out here physically in 2 minutes?
Wow.
There's a lot to this.
Yeah. Well, Washington does have a Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services. They may add a couple other names to it, but it's the one that you want to talk about is the Child Services, and they're supposed to give services to help you as a parent. One of the rules in our handbook is to help parents get adequate services, like if they need a parenting class or an anger management. Let's say they yell in front of the kids. Well, that's not a healthy thing to do in front of the kids, so they should get an anger management class and learn how to do timeouts. We talk about timeouts with our children, but we also, as adults, should do timeouts, whether in the workplace, whether anything. I mean, they do that in the sports. I follow football, and there's always a timeout. Timeout. What it is to calm down, think things out, maybe go for a walk or whatever it is, and then you get your game plan. And we do this with our kids. One of the bad things we don't do with our kids, after the timeout is over, we don't ask them, well, do you know what your timeout was about? We need to talk to them again. A lot of times they say, all right, your time's out, go out and play.
Probably accidentally talk about it. Like, yeah, I probably over the top of it. Yeah.
No, I mean, I just, we're great about giving kids timeout, go sit in the corner or something, but then we say the timeout's over, but we don't talk to them. After they've been sitting there for 15 minutes, we should say, hey, do you understand why I did the timeout? Let's talk about it. Let's go for a walk outside. You know, um, a timeout is a useful tool, but they're supposed to provide services. They're supposed to help you with food stamps if you're low income. They help you with Medicare. I mean, social service besides the child is supposed to help you with those things, help you get a job.
Oh, no. Everybody else has gotten help, but not me, which is crazy.
Well, it's how you approach people and how you are. I was a fighter. I certainly didn't make any good friends with CPS. I've certainly been fighting here for 14 years. I'm not making any friends. I've had one social worker come on my show and talk for 40 minutes, and she was appalled to hear what I had to say, but she was respectful. I was respectful to her, but she insisted that her program, her state, Maryland, does 6 months of training, and that she had a clinical psychology degree, which I said was really great. But I just, told her what other people from Maryland have told me about CPS there in Maryland. And she was just appalled to hear that. Like, oh, we do family reunification. I said, well, why do you take children out right away when they come to your home? I mean, why do you do that when they're not in extreme danger? She didn't answer me that. You know, she wouldn't answer me why they do that because they have a habit of doing that lately. They have a habit. Yeah, yeah. So you got a lot to do before your case is. Just keep in mind that Mandy, that you can call in. I'm on 14, times a week, 7 days a week, twice a day, and I gladly talk to you. I gladly talk to you. So.
I do. I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you're doing, Bob. I really
Well,
do.
I had the experience myself. I wish I had known what I know now, because maybe I wouldn't have lost my daughter. See, in the end run, I lost several things. I lost my daughter at age 12 because she was convinced by the social worker to divorce her parents, to change her name, to seal her birth certificate, and be adopted into foster care. She was told by a social worker because the social worker was caught lying on the trial because the case was adopting my daughter by my wife's sister. He had alternative motives. And my attorney cross-examined and they asked a question about domestic violence in the home. the social worker lied because there was domestic violence in their home. And so she did as revenge. She said, "You're never," she told us, my wife and I, "you're never going to see your daughter again." She was held for true. Our daughter's 21 now, and she still sees her brothers, even though she's divorced from her brothers, because I encourage that. So there's maybe some hope that she'll come back. But the CPS ruined the relationships. It hurt my two boys who've been struggling. One boy, had a senior uh, semester left in senior year of college and quit because he was too much fried by what CPS did. I lost my home, my my home I worked 40 years for. I lost my home because I had to sell it to get money to pay for my attorney. And so I've had to restart my whole life on it. The only trouble is when you restart your life on at age 74, it's hard. I'm still healthy. I don't feel 74. And so I'm still out there looking for work, a career job again. And so I do want to get there. But I know what you're going through. I feel for you. Yes, Faye, it's for money. I have someone that texted a message. She says, Faye, who's from Richmond, Kentucky, says, it's the money thing. I know it is. They have a $50 billion business to feed. My director of CPS in Orange County has a Taj Mahal of a building. And he, you know, it's like the Emerald City of Oz. He met with me, but it went one ear, went the other ear, and he had so much gold around his neck, I thought he was going to fall over. And my social worker was happy with bonuses. She got bonuses for her eyelashes, her makeup, her Gucci purse, her clothing, her BMW car. She bragged about it all. So I know what you're going through. You're going through against a corrupt system. And right now, many of the listeners have contacted their senators and their representatives and trying to fight it on a political level. Sometimes contacting the governor, uh, you know, uh, or a news reporter station. Sometimes the story would be interesting to, uh, to news reporting. News reporting loves gossip.
Like,
And
I
go
have an
ahead.
idea to lobby it. I have an idea to want to lobby actually. I'm going to start getting signatures soon.
Well, you can
Just
do
like law
that.
enforcement.
The problem being is that you need to have your child addressed. You can do that, but keep in mind is that CPS will do retaliation, and I know this goes on. And politics are bad because that's the difference between a businessman and a politician. A businessman runs a business. He knows how to work a business. A politician is paid by contributors that want their interests. They have special interests. So I'm not happy with politicians because they think about their special interests first, the money that they're going to get. But I do know they do listen. They have to. They have to listen to their constituents. But Congress has to be addressing this. There was a rally a year ago or last fall in Sacramento, California about CPS. And there's lots of rallies and groups on. Faye has a support group too that she's lobbying against her attorney. Danielle, my co host, who isn't on, has a lobbyist senator in Georgia. So you need to know who your senators and representatives are at the federal level in your state. Don't forget, the senators are two, representatives depends on your population. It may be five or six or three or four or one or whatever.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
I think social workers should have to wear body cams just like the law enforcement officers.
well, that's this body cam thing. I think is great because what it does, it makes them transparent. That black man that was murdered, I call him murdered because the sheriff took upon himself to fire 5 times before talking to him. And the guy was armed with a gun pointing to the ground. And I don't know if you heard about that story in Florida, but he was serving our country as a veteran. He has a loving mother that's devastated. He has a girlfriend now that watched him die on FaceTime. So I tell people, don't open the door. Don't open the door. It can be very tragic when they do open the door.
Well, just like when the sheriff got here, it was all intimidation, and there was no compassion. There was no the inquisition, as I would call it, more of a.
Well, how did it start? How did your case?
Rhetorical questioning.
How did your case start? How did your case start?
That's how it started. Well, it started actually in 2018. My ex and I were in custody court in family court, and he didn't like the way it turned out because he had to pay a lawyer. He started all this stuff because I wanted to make sure my kids were safe because of using drugs. And anyways, the day after I got my no contact order on him, a domestic violence no contact order, he made the first referral. He called incessantly since then. He has called. I've had a CPS worker out here every 3 months since then. Almost like clockwork. Every holiday, every birthday,
You should never call CPS worker because it's not gonna work. The alienation is not gonna happen. They're ginseng first. It's sad with our law enforcement. They supposedly go through training, but there's so many innocent people that are just being murdered, and they think that they have an identity clause that they're not held accountable for their actions. But if you're going to
actually, I had a little bit of good news. I did message or send an email to the prosecutor because they're trying to prosecute my paramour, for all the erroneous allegations. And I did email him and I let him know the discrepancies. So when law enforcement comes out and they do whatever they do, they have a narrative that goes to the law enforcement agency and then they have one that they submit to court. The officer said that there was only one child in the home in the court report, but yet there were 3 in the home according to the narrative, so he had to be accountable for that discrepancy. And so I actually have a supplementary narrative on the agency's report, not the court, didn't submit one to the court, just the agency, stating that he agrees with discrepancies after the prosecutor emailed him my email. So there is some forward steps.
Yeah, I agree. The problem is between dependency court and criminal court is that in criminal court you are innocent till you're proven guilty, but in dependency court you're guilty until you're proven innocent, and that's the downside. Well, no. When an allegation comes in, and let's say they say that you're beating your daughter with a chain, all right? They believe it true, even though it's your neighbor who's upset with your green bushes growing over their yard, or the dog is talking too noisy, and they wanted to make a ploy. Because you see, being anonymous, they do not have to give their name, and that's one thing that needs to be changed. I know they say, well, then people are not going to report. I said, well, you keep it confidential until you've proven that the incident they call is disproven, and then you open it up for a civil suit, because people should say it in writing and should sign their name to it before they accuse somebody. It's easy to use voice and talk and a phone to accuse somebody, but it's a lot harder if you put it in writing.
Exactly. One thing I do want to stress, though, is absolutely pursue, I don't care if they call it CPS, whatever their attack or anything, absolutely pursue them and get your records. Because I found actually records that were half redacted, some were not, where I had social workers already investigating my cases that made referrals upon cases after they got the kids to say or had assumed something was said. They actually made referrals themselves, which is, I don't think that's legal. So get your records. Absolutely, people out there, get your records.
Oh, I agree. The paper part, that's my rule number 2, is to do a paperwork where I tell people to get a 6-inch notebook, stuff it full of college rule notebook paper, and get your subject dividers and organize it, and you put your incidents in the first subject, and you put your date and time and the people involved, and you put the next line to describe what the incident was, and then your next line is to put the outcome. And you do that with each one, and you eventually build your case that way also. You know, it's so important to get the court. You can go to the court clerk, she'll give it to you, and if you can't afford it, they have a low income, they'll give it to you free. And you need to have all the paper, because there are a lot of things they do not show you. They do not show you.
But even DQAS has some opportunities to give you under FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, and there's also for state, I think there's different laws that
Right.
also tell you to have your records, technically.
Right. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of homework to do here. You need to find an attorney, which is your first step. You really got to find a pro bono attorney that works for you because they know the law, they know how to navigate. And one of my attorneys right here, Vincent W. Davis, will talk to you for 30 minutes and he'll help you navigate and show you how you can fight CPS and win your case and get your children back. Because you have two things working against you. You have your son who isn't 100% behind you. Actually, you have three things. The other thing that has a negative impact is you have your sister who has alternative motives to steal your child. And then you have your history of your abusive, I want to say abusive husband. I assume he was abusive to you, was he?
Well, no, we weren't married, but yeah, no, he was.
No, he was abusive, and you should have filed a domestic violence charge against him and had him
Well, I
convicted
did
in
actually.
there.
There are some actually.
Yeah,
He
well,
was found guilty of it.
okay, good, 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 good. Well,
But
anyway,
apparently that doesn't matter though because now he has custody of my little three children.
well, there's more children involved.
Yeah, I have 5 kids.
Where are the other 4 kids? Where are the other 4?
The opportunity to adopt them through the case of the oldest son, and the judge even allowed you to supervise my visits with my kids in my home after all the domestic violence stuff. So tell me there's no corruption here. I said, what? I said, yeah, there is, absolutely.
Wow, that is sad.
Yeah.
Is the same father of all 5 kids? Is the same father of all 5 kids?
No. The oldest has one father.
So how are the biological fathers helping you? Are they are all of them?
No, I have my daughter's father who is here, but that's the one that my ex is trying to go after my daughter's father.
Okay.
Because he's not happy that we're together and the boy is there.
Okay.
So,
how about the other fathers? What's the story on those?
The oldest father, he's pretty much been omniscient the whole entire time. He's just doing his own thing. So I don't know what's involved.
Are they going to support you and help you?
No, my oldest son's father has not really been involved in it.
Okay.
My daughter's father, my youngest son, is here actually with me right now.
Okay.
We're together.
Good.
But my middle 3 children are with the other guy who's actually coming after my daughter's father, whatever his reasons are.
Yeah. Well, you sound like you have a complicated case. My time has ran up. I don't mean to cut this short, but I have to end my show after an hour here. I want to thank you, Mandy, for taking the time to call in. I hope my suggestions may help you. I want you to feel free to call in again or listen. And Faye, I want to thank you very much for being in here, Faye. And I'm going to be on again at 7 o'clock this evening, Pacific Standard Time, for an hour. And so I look forward to you all. And thank you all for the emojis and all the listeners out there. God bless you all. Do not stop fighting for your kids. You will get your kids. You will get your kids. You just have to be persistent about it. And knowledge is the success. And knowledge is the success of winning your case. The more you have knowledge, the knowledge is the power. So God bless you all. And this is Bob Pace.